Mr. Ramos?
Here.
Mr. Lindemann?
Here.
Mr. Sabal?
Here.
Dr. Gomez?
Here.
Mr. Perrin?
Here. Item 1D, and before I get to that, members of the board, just a reminder that at 5:30, we're going to have a public hearing on the revision of the budget, and if I forget to do that, when we get to that item, Alma certainly can tap the phone and remind me. And also, Mrs. Cox is sitting in for Mrs. Samaniego, who is away on personal business, and we hope things work out well for her in that matter. Item D, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of April the 21st, 2020.
I move to approve the minutes.
That by Mr. Lindemann. Is there a second?
Second motion.
By Mr. Sabel. Any discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann?
Yes.
Mr. Sabal?
Yes.
Dr. Gomez?
Yes.
Mr. Perrin?
Yes. Item E, summary of current events. Mrs. Cox, do you have anything to report at this time?
I do, yes.
Okay.
Good evening. So, summary of current events. We would like to congratulate Douglas High School counselors for receiving a certificate from the State Department on outstanding efforts towards increasing the school's FAFSA, which is the free application for federal student aid, completion rate in 2019-20 school year. So here's their certificate. So we'd like to congratulate them for their outstanding efforts with that. We'd also like to inform the community that Embry Health, a company out of Phoenix, is doing free COVID testing at the high school from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Friday, and they can log into our website to schedule an appointment for that. And then also that the end of Q2 is fast approaching, and that will be December 23rd.
Okay, very good. And of course, we will have a report on the status of the virus and how and the effects in the programs and so on as an agenda item later, correct?
Yes, I will be reporting on it in my HR report, and then also in Anna's distance learning plan.
Okay, very good. Item E2, members of the board, does anybody have anything that they would like to report?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Lindemann.
This is Mr. Linda.
Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Lindemann.
Oh, thank you. On December 3rd, I was present at the ASBA virtual December 3rd regular meeting, and we elected officers. Monica Trejo from Tucson, Blaine Solomon from Yuma, and I'm not remembering the third one, but I was present. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other reports, members of the board? Thank you. Moving right along, item 1F.
Mr. Bermain?
Yes, Dr. Gomez.
Listen, this is just an idea. If we continue to have this type of meeting, is there any way that we could do it on Zoom or on whatever the school uses? That way we can kind of see each other, and when that we're not falling asleep, that we're aware of what's going on and stuff like that.
Sure, and I guess that has to ask Alma. Did you talk to Monaco about that? And yes, to kind of recap what can be done.
We can do a Google Meets virtual meeting.
Okay, good. You can do that? Okay, very good. Then, probably for the January meeting, we'll do that.
Okay.
All right. I think.
Thank you so much.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Dr. Gomez.
No, I said thank you so much.
No, thank you. And by the way, for the January organizational meeting, I think it's vitally important that the board members be in attendance. So I think we'll try to make provide for social distancing and do it as quickly as possible, so that we can have all members of the board present. But I want to ensure, and I know that you guys do as well, that we do it in a very, very safe environment. but the fact that we're going to be having the organization of the board, I think we should all be present, if that's all right with you, members of the board.
Yeah, that's fine with me.
That's fine with me too. This is Mr. Ramos.
Okay, and I think Dr. Ed said fine too, didn't he, Mr. Sabal?
Second.
Okay, all right. So we will, Alma, are you there? We will do that, okay? All right, do we have a report by Garrick?
Garrick, are you on there?
Yes, hello.
Do you have a report, Garrick?
Yes, I do.
Okay, you go right ahead.
Good evening, board members, Mr. President, Superintendent Samaniego, staff, and community members. This past week, Student Council concluded their Seas Candy fundraiser. We were able to raise just under $230. Next week, the class of 2023 is hosting a Winter Spirit Week. All are encouraged to participate. Our Douglas High School chapter of HOSA is preparing for their upcoming virtual competitions. The Film and Journalism Club has begun a bi-weekly broadcast entitled Bulldog Bulletin, where they discuss school, town, and world news. Students are currently taking benchmarks as they conclude their third trimester and their first semester. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Garrick, and always feel free that if you have anything to report, we know that activities are limited there, but anything you feel it's important that not only the board know, but the public be aware of, you be sure you let Alma know so that we can make sure you're on the agenda for that report. Business office report, Mr. Soto.
Good evening, Board President, Board members. I do have the cash report for the month of November. This report is showing the adjusted numbers on the budget, revised budget that we're going to approve in a couple minutes. And we can talk more in detail once we're talking about the revised budget. But do you have any questions on the report that is presented?
Let me ask the board members first. Members of the board, do you have any questions regarding the budget as it stands currently? It
No
doesn't.
questions, Mr. Lindeman.
Mr. Lindemann.
No question,
No.
Mr. Ramos.
Okay, very good. Mr. Soto, I think always just the health of the budget. How is it looking? Compared to normal times.
To normal times. Not close to what it should be, of course, and mainly because of the loss of enrollment. We still experiencing not as many kids dropping or not, but slowly experiencing a decrease in enrollment. This past month, month, I'm going to say we lost another 20 kids. So just so you're aware, most definitely we're going to have to do another revision to the budget probably in February or March, which we typically do anyways. But if we continue experiencing this loss of enrollment, then definitely we have to address it. And like I said, we are going to talk about more in depth about the budget, the revision of the budget, and what I had to do to balance it. So,
Okay, that'll be fine. And of course, obviously that Mr. Ramos, Mr. Lindeman, Dr. Gomez, Mr. Sabal, and I are always concerned about the solvency
Right.
and especially the revenues. So we're okay.
Right.
And of course, you can get into that a little bit more later.
Okay,
All right.
thank you.
Human resources, Mrs. Cox.
Okay, good evening again. So currently our student enrollment is at 3,856, which includes 91 preschool students. So as Mr. Soto said, we are continuing to see a decrease in student numbers, but everybody is working really hard to, the secretaries and parent liaisons are working really hard to ensure that we are finding out what's happening with the students, and if it's an attendance issue, they are tracking the students. And so in terms of what's happening within our schools related to COVID, as you are well aware, the cases in Douglas are rising. We have a great number of cases, and we have many people out pending results, as well as people within the district who are positive at this time. And so we're trying to do the best that we can in order to mitigate the exposure at the sites, but it's been challenging, I have to admit. And so after Thanksgiving, we knew we would see a peak, and so we are definitely seeing it. Last week was a tough week. This week is not as bad as it was last week, but we are seeing an increase. And so because of the people that are either out positive or the people who are pending results, the people at the sites are decreasing, and so that has impacted our safe learning spaces. So what we've had to do is temporarily close down the following learning spaces at the sites. So Huber, due to staffing, we had to close down their safe learning space until Monday. This coming Monday, we'll open it again if we have the staff that can run that. We have also had to close down Ray Barain, Ferris, and Joe Carlson K through second grade only. Third through fifth is still currently running. And so again, it's pretty much due to either people who are testing positive or people who have come into contact with people who are positive. And so we are trying to figure how we can manage. Right now, the sites that have been impacted have been, for this week, have been cafeteria, maintenance, and then our ESS program has been heavily impacted. So we just ask that, in Mrs. Samaniego's report in a little bit, we'll talk about why. People keep asking us, why can't we close down the district? Why isn't the district closed down? Well, we can't do that. It either has to be by executive order from the governor or by the health department. And we are in constant communication with the health department and taking their guidelines and recommendations. And so we're doing the best that we can at this point.
Mrs. Cox, because of the difficulty of the phone and the communication and eye contact and those things, could you just go ahead and do item H and just finish up with that report on and include the distance learning and anything else that would have been included in that report? And let's do that now, and it's probably more appropriate to do it at the beginning so that those that want to hear about what's going on don't have to sit through the rest of the agenda.
Perfect.
Go ahead.
Sure. Okay, so DUSD continues to operate 100% online with students either at home or attending a learning space. As Mrs. Samaniego hoped that starting in January we could begin our hybrid model, allowing for students to return to partial in-person learning at least 2 days a week. However, assessing the local COVID situation and considering all facts being provided by the Cochise County Health Department, it is not in the best interest of students or staff to begin our hybrid model until possibly later in the spring. Mrs. Samaniego firmly believes that students belong in schools, but the health and well-being of the students and staff is more important at this time. Therefore, her recommendation is to postpone any in-person instruction until the spring. One issue we are facing is the lack of substitute teachers when teachers have to be out. With COVID and online instruction, that has been quite challenging. Substitute teachers are not available at the moment, being that the online platform we follow is not easy for a sub to take over without proper training. Due to COVID-related issues, many teachers are absent for several days, reducing their virtual teaching time with students. If teachers are able to work from home during an absence, either due to COVID or any other circumstance, then it's in the best interest of students to continue their virtual teacher meets so that the instruction does not get interrupted. When teachers are absent, they are expected to leave a lesson and assignments for students to complete online. Lessons should be relevant and purposeful. All teachers need to be prepared with virtual lesson plans and submit them to their principals so that when teachers need to be absent, instruction should not stop. Teachers need to understand that during this year, the classroom has been taken into our families' homes, making their teaching visible to all members in a family. Parents, grandparents, and any family at home is constantly watching and hearing what is going on during a virtual classroom. We ask that our parents don't interrupt lessons, but rather send teachers an email privately about a concern they may have. We know that this has been extremely difficult for our staff, students, and parents. Parents have had to change their lives drastically to accommodate their own children at home. We hope that parents continue to work with their child's teachers so that together they can do what is best for their children. We have ordered more Chromebooks and laptop carts because unfortunately state testing is still planned. Obviously, this poses a challenge because Azela and AZ Merit 2 will have to be done in person, not at home. Schools will have to get very creative in scheduling students in small groups so that all students get tested during the testing window. We will continue to provide PPE equipment and ask all employees to follow our protocols with fidelity so that we can minimize the spread. DUSD simply cannot shut down and send all employees home, as that would need to be a governor mandate. We will continue to monitor our cases and take action when needed. If schools need to shut down learning spaces, we will. If we need to send employees home, we will. And we will do whatever it takes to keep operating safely. Our district must keep operating, and having our schools open is a mandate in order to receive funding. At the moment, all winter sports activities for Douglas High School have been put on hold for the remainder of this semester. We will analyze our data and make a decision as to whether we can resume any sports activity in January. Mrs. Samaniego wants to thank all of the staff during these challenging times, but especially our instructional support staff for being the essential employees who are dealing daily with students and supporting their instruction. She would also like to thank the HR department for handling all COVID-related cases and trying to handle every situation with the utmost professionalism and confidentiality.
To kind of keep this sequential, to start with the first statement, I think that could use a little bit of clarity, and maybe you could expand on it. When you said spring, be a little bit more specific what you're talking about there, so that the parents especially will know what we're talking about.
So what we're thinking, Mrs. Samaniego and I had talked a little bit about maybe looking at how the cases are, how things are going in February. And then she would see how things are. But the guidance from the health department is that they're thinking that we will probably see another spike in January due to the holiday season. So we may not be able to start our hybrid model until Q4, which would be after spring break in March.
Okay, so then the next question is, and I get this asked of me all the time, why does the district allow athletics when the academic portion of the institution is shut down? And those, of course, are decisions being made administratively by the power vested in the administration by the board. So when you talk about spring and you talk about February, then what does that say for athletics? Could you, in that interim still, or if the numbers or the metrics look like it would be possible according to some of the AIA guidelines or whatever, if you want to follow them, does it look like sports could, in the intervening time, still continue if you people decided it was safe to do it?
Yes, I think that would, Mrs. Samaniego, Mr. Ortega, and Mr. Walker would have to really look at what is happening across the state with the numbers, the AIA recommendations. But it could possibly be that they would be ready to go with spring sports. But we would have to determine that probably in January.
But you said spring sports. That doesn't mention at all winter sports. So where are you with the winter sports?
So winter sports have been put on hold for the remainder of the semester.
For the remainder of the semester,
Yes.
and a decision forthcoming. And that's not for me, that's for the parents and all of the interested parties that are asking about that. Members of the board, and just for the record, we have officially moved item H to this so that we could discuss it, and it's not a report anymore. So she made a report, now we're on item H that was moved by the chair. So, members of the board, any questions or comments regarding the last portion of Mrs. Cox's report?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Okay, when you talk about, because when the county department talks about a surge, do they mean in cases that test positive, or illnesses, or hospitalizations, or what are they talking about?
They are talking about both of those things, Dr. Gomez. They're talking about a spike in positive cases and a spike in hospitalizations.
Okay, but again, it's a spike in positive tests.
Yes.
Okay, but that doesn't mean illnesses. And then in our school district, we've had a spike in positive tests. But how about people that have been sick and or maybe put in the hospital or things like that? There's a difference there, you know, because you test positive, that doesn't mean that you're going to get the disease. It means that you're positive that you might have been exposed to the COVID. So, I mean, we need to clarify that, you know, as to what you mean by a surge.
Yes. So what we're dealing with right now is that people who, and we have a variety of things happening. So many people are positive and don't have symptoms, so they're asymptomatic. And then we've had employees who have gotten very ill and have had to be in the hospital. And then, so that those are things we're looking at. But the recommendation is that they are out 10 days school. So it's a total of 14 days when we include Saturdays and Sundays. So if a person is in contact with somebody or is positive themselves, it's an automatic quarantine for 14 days.
Okay, got it.
Okay, is that it, Dr. Gomez?
That's it.
Okay, thank you very much.
you.
Any other board member have any questions or comments regarding that report?
No questions, thank you.
Okay,
No questions.
all right, we'll move on then to item G, public comments. Do you have any, Alma, do you have any,
Just one.
who's got them?
Yes, I have it.
Mrs. Cox, go ahead.
So this is from Mr. Nathan Darius. His address is 1401 East 13th Street. And he says, I request permission to address the governing board on the following item on the agenda. I would love to share the virtual concert the DHS band compiled this past week. The band has been at work the past 4 weeks practicing and recording into Smart Music, the Merry Christmas Machine, arranged by Mark Williams. They also compiled a short 3-minute video into Flipgrid of them playing And We Were Creative in the Holiday Cheer too. Both items were then combined together and balanced using Odyssey and Adobe Premiere Pro with Mr. Darius's help. I hope you enjoy it as I shared the link. Thanks for your time and consideration, Mr. Darius.
Okay, and how can they get, Alma, how can they get that link?
I will be posting it on the website.
Oh, you posted it on the
I will
website?
post it on the website, and I have shared it with the board members.
Okay, very good. Item 2, consent agenda items. A1, members of the board entertain a motion to approve payroll and expense vouchers as listed.
I move to approve, Lindemann.
Mr. Lindeman, is there a second?
Second the motion.
Who was that?
Mr. Saban?
Take your pick. It was all three of us.
Okay. Okay, Sabal, any discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann?
Yes.
Mr. Saban?
Yes.
Dr. Gomez?
Yes.
Mr. Bering?
Yes, item 3A, discussion action on the approval of classified hires. And we've got Alberto Figueroa, Michael J. Torres. Do you want to comment on any of that, Mrs. Cox?
No, as presented.
Entertain a motion to approve.
I move to approve the classified hires.
Mr. Lindeman, is there a second?
Yes, second. Second the motion.
Mr. Saban?
Mr. Sabal, any discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann?
Yes.
Mr. Saban?
Yes.
Dr. Gomez?
Yes.
Mr. Bering?
Yes, item 3B, discussion action on the approval of temporary classified hires as listed there, Alex Ivano Ochoa, Jill Warden, and Blanca Dominguez. You want to comment, Mrs. Cox, on any of that?
So these are as presented, and these are the temporary hires for our learning spaces.
and being paid out of the CARES
CARES,
Act.
yes.
Entertain a motion to approve.
Lindemann, move to approve.
Second
Yes.
by Mr. Sabal. Any discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann?
Yes.
Mr. Sabal?
Yes.
Dr. Gomez?
Yes.
Mr. Bahrain?
Yes, and again, it's always a good idea if we put down where the funding comes from on those hirings, just so the board knows.
Yes.
Action 3C, discussion action on the approval of classified resignations and retirement. And we've got 5 there, and they're Mary Elizabeth Ibarra, Rosalba Treviso, Diana Medina, Guadalupe Tanabe, and Catalina Decker. Do you want to comment on any of that, Mrs. Cox?
So as presented, and we would like to thank Mrs. Ibarra and Ms. Treviso for their years of service to the district, and they are all rehirable.
So noted, and that should have been there as well.
Yes.
So noted. Entertain a motion to approve.
I move to approve. Lindemann.
Mr. Lindeman, second.
Second.
Mr. Ramos?
Mr. Ramos, any discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann?
Yes.
Mr. Sabal?
Yes.
Dr. Gomez?
Yes.
Mr. Bahrain?
Yes. Item D, discussion action on the approval of addendum for Ms. Joni Duarte, and that's out of the STAR Autism. Mrs. Cox, do you want to comment on that?
As presented, and she is based on the work that she does, so she submits timesheets for the time she puts in.
Okay, entertain a motion to approve.
I move to approve.
Mr. Lindeman, second.
Second the motion.
Mr. Sabal?
Mr. Sabal. Discussion, members of the board? Roll
I
call.
have a question.
A question, Dr. Gomez.
Yes. Does she have an addendum now?
So no, she does not. So it's not an addendum. So as she works, she will put it on a timesheet, and then she gets paid just for the hours that she works. So
Got
it's
you.
different
Thank
than an addendum. You're welcome.
And that's a good question, because that's a different type of a pay.
Yes.
That's nothing that's like seasonal. It's as they do the job,
As they
correct?
do the job.
And that's different from all of these coaches' addendums that we give and all of the other ones for department heads and so on.
Yes.
Thank you, that was a good question. Roll call.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann?
Yes.
Mr. Sabal?
Yes.
Dr. Gomez?
Yes.
Mr. Bahrain?
Yes, item E, discussion action on the approval of donations received for Douglas Unified School District number 27, and there's 2 listed there. Members of the board, I think you can see them. There's from Walmart and also from STEMCAM, which is a support group for costs in elementary, and the different with the different amounts there. Do you want to comment on that at
No,
all?
as presented.
Okay, entertain a motion to approve.
Lindemann, I move to approve.
Lindeman, is there a second?
Second.
By Mr. Ramos, is that Ramos? Very good. Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann?
Yes.
Mr. Sabal?
Yes.
Dr. Gomez?
Yes.
Mr. Bahrain?
Yes. Item 3F, discussion action on the approval of the intergovernmental agreement for pathways to teaching between the Arizona Board of Regents, University of Arizona, and Douglas Unified School District number 27. Mrs. Cox, if you take that, please.
Yes, so this is a partnership with the University of Arizona South, and it is a grow your own type of program for people who have an AA degree or who want to pursue teaching. They had to have certain qualifications, and so we are partnering with U of A South, and so we will be hopefully hiring these teachers to continue to work in our district. So right now we have about 13 people who are interested in this program.
Okay, very good. Entertain a motion to approve.
I move to approve. Lindemann.
Lindeman, second.
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 Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Was that Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Very good. Discussion, members of the board? Roll call.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann?
Yes.
Mr. Sabay?
Yes.
Dr. Gomez?
Yes.
Mr. Bering?
Yes, and at this time, we're going to recess the regular meeting, and we're going to call the public hearing to order. Roll call.
Mr. Ramos?
Here?
Mr. Lindemann?
Here?
Mr. Sabay?
Yes.
Dr. Gomez?
Yes.
Mr. Bering?
Here. This meeting is called for the revision to the fiscal year 2020-2021 district annual budget expenditure according to ARS 15-905. And I think it's very, very difficult to have a public hearing in this manner. And I think the district, Alma did everything she could to solicit comments or questions regarding that. We don't have any mechanism to have anybody call in to question. And so I think the best thing to do it, and probably do it the most legal way, is to have Mr. Soto summarize. It is a hearing, but actually summarize as to what the hearing's about, Mr. Soto. You don't need to get into detail, because the budget was published, right?
Correct.
All right, so people had an opportunity to look at it.
Yes.
And Alma, you did say that you did everything possible
Yes.
when you posted it to have comments, and we didn't get any. So
Correct.
I think the appropriate thing to do and the most legal thing to do is for you to kind of give a preview or a capsule of what we're looking at, and then proceed. Go ahead.
Typically, a hearing is set up so the community or members of the community, if they have questions, they can come and ask those questions. Typically, we will have a hearing to propose and adopt the budget at the beginning of the school year or before the year starts, fiscal year starts. And so when you have a revision, the community has the opportunity to question the changes to the budget that is presented, that is going to be revised at this point. Like you said, I mean, there was nobody submitting questions or concerns about the budget at this point, but I think we can go more into detail about all of the changes that happen once we have the motion. But yeah, typically the hearing is to give the opportunity to the community to have questions, to ask questions about anything on the proposed or at this point revised budget. One of the things that I want to mention that it's included in this revision is the new property tax rate, and like I said, for months, I mean that it was going to be lower, so that's what we're showing at this point. But then we'll get into the more detail of the numbers once we get in the action item.
Okay, that was a very good summary. And then again, for the record, the budget was published. There was
Correct.
opportunity for people to submit questions as the public hearing is meant to be. And members of the board will be able to comment when we get onto that item in the regular agenda to approve it. So there's no sense in belaboring the point. There's nobody to comment on. The opportunity was given. We didn't get any written. So I'm going to ask the board to adjourn the public hearing and move back into the regular meeting. So we're back in the regular meeting. All right? Thank you, Mr. Soto.
You're welcome.
All right. Now, members of the board, we're on item G, which is the discussion action on the approval of the revision to the district annual expenditure budget for fiscal year 2020-2021. And now is the time for Mr. Soto, if he wants to give more detail, and then members of the board for you to comment or ask questions. Mr. Soto.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. There's like I keep saying, we're experiencing a decrease in enrollment, and of course that's what is driving this revision to the budget because of the loss of enrollment. If you remember, in the last board meeting, I kind of give you a ballpark of how much we needed to adjust the budget. and it was roughly $1 million because of the close to 200 kids that we lost. It ended up being close to the 500,000 mainly because of the carryover. We ended up with a lot more carryover than what we anticipated, and again, another big factor to this was having all of those vacancies and not filling them up. Saving on those salaries helped tremendously. As you all know, 85 to 90% of the whole budget is salaries and benefits. So that's what's helping us at this point. I got rid of those, some of those positions that that we were planning on filling this year, but that for sure there's no need to, because there's no regular instruction at the sites and stuff like that. So by me eliminating all of those positions, and the carryover that we had, that we ended up happening more than what we anticipated, helped tremendously. Still, the concern is the loss of enrollment. We're going to continue monitoring that, and if needed, we're going to have another revision of the budget, probably in March or April, which we typically do anyways. We do a revision, but if the enrollment keeps declining, then definitely we have to address it. The budget is as it is right now. Everything, all of the positions that we haven't filled, they're still vacant, but they're encumbered in this revision. So when the time comes and we decide to start with the hybrid model, we have enough money to cover those positions if we need to, like all of those IAs, all of those security people at the high school, maintenance workers and all that. Once we will be prepared for that with this revision of the budget. Of course, it not only affects the M&O portion, but it also affects our capital monies because of the loss of enrollment. That area wasn't hit big time, but it was a decrease of $15,000. And as you all know, if needed, we can always transfer some of those capital monies to the M&O to kind of help out if need to be. Any questions at this point that you may have?
I think it always merits discussion that the present budget, because of all of the circumstances and all of the variables from last year, is what you're talking about now.
Correct.
However, we need to be totally aware of next year's budget.
Correct.
And how it's going to be affected by all of the circumstances and variables that are occurring right now.
Yes.
And that's important for the board to know, that things may not be as rosy next year as they look right now.
Correct.
And then our big concern is, can we sustain all the expenditures that we've approved, and especially the one that we're always very, very aware of and sensitive to is the sustainability of the raises we've given
Correct.
our employees, and we want to make sure that we're still committed to that 100%, and that we'll always be committed to it, and we'll try to do everything we can to be able to sustain that. And that's important. Yes. Because Denise gave a report earlier about the loss of enrollment, and it doesn't look like it's going to get any better before the end of the year. So we just need to be aware of that now, so that when the time comes in building the budget for next year, we know that all of those different variables kick in, and things may not look that good for next year. And I just wanted to comment on that. Members of the board, do you have any questions or comments regarding the budget before we approve the revision?
No comments, Lindemann.
Mr. Lindemann? No. Mr. Ramos?
No questions.
Dr. Gomez?
No questions.
Mr. Sabel?
Yes, what are we exactly doing about enrollment? What are we doing about enrollment right now?
In what manner? In what manner? What do you mean? What are? Could you be a little bit more specific?
How are we promoting enrollment right now, sir?
Mrs. Cox?
Yes. So at this time, many of the students that we've lost are going to other sites, to other districts, other schools. But the ones that we are dropping due to attendance issues, our parent liaisons and our secretaries are making calls, they're doing home visits, they're out trying to get all of those students who are not logging in to do their virtual learning and learning is what we're trying to do the best that we can to try to get those kids back into our school system.
Was that your question, Mr. Sabal?
Are the attempts being documented?
Yes,
Everything that we're doing for enrollment?
yes, they are.
Okay, does that answer your question, Mr. Sabal?
Pardon?
Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay, very good. Good question. Thank you. That, again, that needed to be said to let the staff.
Can I add something?
Go ahead.
Just to what Mrs. Cox was saying, is that most of the kids that we've lost is they move out of town, or some of them decided to go online full time on another platform. There was a report that came out from the state almost a month ago, and where the whole state is experiencing around a loss of 50,000 students in the whole state. Of course, it varies district to district, but mainly those kids or those parents are choosing to actually go into like a online platform like Primavera, like some other ways of teaching or learning. But we're doing as much as we can to keep the kids we have at this point by offering also the online. But it's a whole state. Not that it's a justification, but it's a whole state problem, and the governor and the state is aware of all of that. And so we'll see what happens. Just to add a little bit more on the budget, like Mr. Brain was saying, there's a lot of variables still in the air that we don't know how they're going to play out for next school year in terms of funding. And then, of course, you guys know that I think it was Prop 206, the past Prop 206 or 208,
208.
About education. We still don't know how is it going to benefit the regular, normal, traditional school districts. They haven't talked about that. So there's again, we still have to be very conservative in our budget just to make sure that we're going to be able to sustain everything. For sure, we're going to have to do some kind of increase in salary because minimum wage is going up. Luckily, at this point, we don't have any employee making minimum wage, that we don't have to increase them. Only if we hire new ones, then we're going to have to at least make it $12, $15 an hour instead of $12 even. But we don't have to modify our salary schedule at this point because we don't have anybody. But there's going to be an increase every year according to the state to adjust to the cost of living. So I don't know what the number is going to be for the following year. All I know this year it's 15 cents on the classified minimum wage. So again, there's a lot of variables still for next year. That's why we have to be very careful on how we spend the money. So we still do have all of those CARES money available to us that we have until September of 2021 to spend. So that's a big cushion that the new enrollment stability grant that we were awarded, it's mainly spent, the whole thing. We had until this month to finish up the spending on that grant, which means that we get to keep the whole allocation of the CARES Act money that we still do have available for next year in case we need it. So
Okay, very good. Well, you're virtually in an austerity budget anyway. Without declaring an emergency, the emergency is prevalent.
correct.
And and I think Mrs. Cox said it earlier, that it's very important that if there are positions, regardless how minor, that unless they're absolutely needed,
Correct.
you don't fill them, right?
Correct.
That's what you're doing.
Yes.
Is that what you
Yes,
said,
that's
Mrs.
what we're
Cox?
doing now.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think that's a good process.
Right.
Any
Okay.
any questions before I call for the motion, members of the board? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve the revision.
I move to approve the revision of the budget.
Mr. Lindeman, second.
Second.
Mr. Sabal, any discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann?
Yes.
Mr. Sabal?
Yes.
Dr. Gomez?
Yes.
Mr. Burring?
Yes. Item 4, members of the board, request for future items, agenda items. Hearing none. Item 5, announcements. Ms. Cox?
Winter break, December 24th through January 6th. Like I said, December 23rd is the end of quarter 2. December 24th through January 1st, all district offices are closed, which include transportation, warehouse, receiving, and maintenance departments. We have the annual organization meeting on January 5th at 10 a.m. And the next regular board meeting will be January 12th, 2021.
Okay, just a footnote to that 10 a.m., and this is just for general information. This is strictly a board matter, a board function, and that's the reason we have it at 10 a.m. in the morning. It doesn't affect anybody but the board. All right. Item 6, executive session. The governing board may vote to go into executive session pursuant to ARS 38-431.03, subsection A1 for the following personnel matter, and it's A, to discuss Superintendent Ana Samaniego's annual evaluation, and I'll entertain a motion to go into executive session to do that.
Mr. Lindemann, I move to go into executive session.
Mr. Lindemann, second by Mr. Ramos. Roll call.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann?
Yes.
Mr. Sabar?
Yes.
Dr. Gomez?
Yes.
Mr. Burring?
Yes. We shouldn't be in too long, so we'll just cut the phones off, and then when we come back, Alma will let everybody know that we're back in open session. As a matter of fact, Mr. Soto, you and Ms. Cox don't need to be on the line anymore, so we thank you.
Okay.
Derek or anybody else, if you can please disconnect. Thank you.
Have a good night. Or do you want me to reconnect after?
No, you don't have to. We are done.
Let me.
Okay. Have a good night, you guys.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you.
I'm just going to read the admonition. All persons present are hereby reminded that it is unlawful to disclose or otherwise divulge to any person who is not now present, other than a current member of the board or pursuant to a specific statutory exception, anything that has transpired or has been discussed during this executive session. Failure to comply is a violation of ARS 38-431.03. So we're in executive session now. All right, we're back in open session. And I think of Alma running back and forth, members of the board. It goes along with what all of you guys said about Anna. You know, she's her right-hand person, and not to patronize her, but Alma has done a very good job under all of these circumstances, trying to hold all of these things together, and it's been very difficult, and she's done an outstanding job. Although we don't evaluate her, we can express those sentiments to her on behalf of the board, and I know you guys agree with that. We're back in open session for item 7. Discussion action to approve Superintendent Samaniego's annual evaluation. I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So
I move to approve the evaluation. Lindemann.
Lindemann, second.
Second.
Was that Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Yes.
Alma?
Yes, Mr. Ramos.
Mr. Ramos? Okay, any discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann?
Yes.
Mr. Sabat?
Yes.
Dr. Gomez?
Yes.
Mr. Bahrain?
Yes, and again, I want to thank the members of the board in these difficult times. You guys have been great. You've been cooperative. You've been versatile in doing all of these things, and thank you guys. It's kind of difficult to do a meeting like this, but I want to express my gratitude to you. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
Okay. Before we go, I'd like to wish everybody a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
Very good. Thank you, Dr. Gomez. Very good.
Merry Christmas to all.
Yes, I concur.
We have a
Mr.
motion
Chairman,
and a
I'd like
second.
this is Sabal. I'd like to thank everyone on the board, plus the administration and the staff for putting up with all kinds of mandates and problems. Wish them not only Merry Christmas, but a very healthy, safe New Year. So with all my heart, I give you all my thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Sabel. And we'll see everybody back here in January at 10 in the morning. And maybe Alma will have some refreshments. Or something. No. We've got a motion on the floor.
It was Mr. Lindemann.
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Adjourned. Thank you.